Real talk. No bull. Real talk. We're putting it all on the table. You know what to do.
Here we are,
Episode 8.
episode 8. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. You about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, eh?
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Plowing through the week.
Yeah, plowing through the week,
week.
man. That's it, man.
Yep.
Yeah, just rocking my maintenance and cleaning up houses as we do. Yeah,
Oh, good stuff, man. Good
that's
stuff.
it, eh? That's it.
Yep.
Hey, just for the listeners, viewers out there, if you like what we're doing, give us a like, subscribe, hit the little thumbs up, maybe share our content to people that you think might like it. It all helps in the end, even if it just reaches just a few people that might need it. I think I've been receiving some positive feedback. How about you?
Yeah, man. Yep, feedback's been great.
Yeah,
Everyone understands that we're still new to it, but
that's it.
But yeah, I think everyone likes the message that we're spreading
Yeah, man.
and what we're trying to achieve. So it's good to know that people like it.
Yeah, and just a little disclaimer. What we're going to talk about tonight is purely opinion based. We're not professionals on the subject matter. It's not something we've studied, but obviously we are fathers, and so that gives us credibility, I guess.
But there's one other thing. We're not taking any shine away from what the woman, our wives, partners, the mums have gone through.
No.
But this is just about what us men experience.
Yeah.
And being thrust into being a dad.
Yeah. So tonight's episode is we're going to talk about what it's like from going from just a normal guy with a missus to then being thrust into the life of being a father. Yeah. Pretty big moment.
Massive moment, mate.
That's a huge moment.
I remember that moment where it hit me. It was when our daughter Abby was coming out. I was like, oh shit, that is it. It's no longer just us two anymore.
Nah, man.
It's us three.
That's it.
That was
It's a pretty powerful moment though, because you grow up loving things and having love for things, and you have partners and girlfriends, and you love your mum and you love your dad and your family and stuff like that. But when you see your child for the first time, like that love is so different, right? Like that's a love that you could never comprehend that you could feel. And I guess for dads, it's a little bit different because we haven't had that connection like the mums get for 9 months while they incubate the baby in their bellies, and they get to nurture and grow and feel the baby. We're on the outside of that, so it's not something that we really get to be a part of. Hey,
no, we get, like you said before, we get thrust into it from the beginning. We're just there for along the ride for the first 9 months, really. And then all of a sudden it's go time. Yeah. With no connection built. We have to build that connection, that bond, because as soon as the baby comes out, they want mum. Yeah. They want milk. They want that connection, and
that's it.
We are off to the side, just waiting our turn to get that first picture. Yep.
Yeah, for me, like the subject came up. I was on a walk with dads, the dads group, and I was just talking about it with another dad, and we had a really good conversation about it, and I just thought, wow, that's a really good topic to talk about, because it's not often something that gets talked about, really, like that feeling of that transition, and how that impacts us, and it impacts us all differently, right? We all have a different experience on the subject matter. Some guys have a really good time and some don't, and it really depends on circumstances and environment at the time and whatnot. And do you have a village around to help, or is it just you and your missus? Are you and your missus on good terms? Is it is it a healthy relationship that you're going through at the time? Like, there's so many variables in what creates that experience for people, right? So it's not something that's just laid out, and this is how it happens. It's so different. Hey,
there's no rule book.
Nah, man.
There's no set play.
Nah. So what I did was I wanted to gain a little bit of research from other dads. So I put it out to the Dad's Community Facebook page, and I asked the question, what was the experience like for you? And I got some really good feedback from some of the dads, and we're going to read a couple of those out tonight. And there's one in particular that I would really like to start with. If you
Mate, hit me with it.
You want to hear it?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Excuse me.
Do we want to hear it?
Yeah, I think people might want to hear it. So it was. I'm not going to read out the names of these dads that posted these things, but we're going to read them out, and we're going to sort of
Dissect it
a little bit, because I think it's really relatable, and I think a lot of dads could relate to these experiences as well. And I guess why I wanted to talk about it tonight is because I want dads to realize that they're not alone in the way that they feel about these things. Okay, so we're going to start with this one here. The unexpected journey of fatherhood. Learning, failing, and finally feeling like a dad. When my kids arrived, the picture I had in my head of effortless fatherhood shattered. Nothing felt natural. It wasn't the instant connection you see in the movies or the innate understanding of what to do. Instead, it was a whirlwind of sleepless nights, endless crying, and a constant feeling of being utterly lost. I was learning on the go, thrown into the deep end without a life vest. Diaper changes felt like wrestling matches I usually lost. Soothing a crying baby seemed like deciphering a complex code written in an unknown language, and the sheer responsibility of being in charge of these tiny, vulnerable humans was overwhelming. The truth is, I failed. I failed often. I forgot bottles, misread cues, and probably held them wrong at times. There were moments of frustration, exhaustion, and self-doubt that made me question if I was cut out for this. I felt inadequate, a fraud, pretending to be a dad, but never quite reaching the mark. But here's the thing. Fatherhood isn't an innate skill, it's a learned art. It's a journey of trial and error, of stumbling and getting back up. It's a process of building connection, understanding, and love over time. It's taken years and years of late nights, talks, scraped knees, bedtime stories, and countless I love yous to finally feel like a dad, in the way they reach for my hand, in the trust in their eyes, and the comfortable silences we share. It's in the shared laughter, the inside jokes, the feeling of being an integral part of their lives. The journey wasn't easy, and there are still challenges ahead, but now looking back, I see the mistakes, the learning curves, the moments, the inadequacy were all part of becoming the dad I am today, and that I wouldn't trade for anything. It's wonderfully written.
Yeah.
And I hope you listen to this, because that was, I think that's some really good points in there. Like the just not knowing what to do, and you get thrown into it, and you make all these mistakes, and as well as going through your own sort of, I guess, your own stuff at the same time. Like it's just got to working and building that connection, right? Yeah,
well, mate, to be honest, I struggled a fair bit, but at the same time, I probably didn't do as much. I obviously didn't do nowhere near as much as what my wife did, but the struggle was definitely real.
Was it because you didn't feel like you knew what to do?
Yeah.
Or when to do it?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. I couldn't read the cues. I often found myself saying to my wife, let me know when I need to do something, because I'm hopeless at reading it. Like there was, perfect examples is like when I was left with our kids, or mostly Abby, that, I didn't forget the bottle, but it would be a little bit later than what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So even though she still got the bottle or whatnot, I still, if I've missed that time frame because I just wasn't thinking about it, it kind of made me feel like I was failing, to be honest, because, this little thing, this human is depending on you, and you fucked up giving it a bottle.
Did you feel scared to be left with the kids alone? Like I was.
Not in the beginning.
I felt scared to be left with the baby by myself. Like,
Nah, not in the beginning. No, that happened more when our daughter was probably maybe about 3 years old.
okay,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she was definitely a mummy's girl, and if if she got into one of these zones, it was just no coming back from it. There was plenty of times where, like Lara would come home and I haven't been able to console Abby, and yeah, it's not a good feeling.
No,
It's not a good feeling. All they want is their mum, and it was, some of those times were pretty bad. So I guess you kind of retreated. I retreated a bit because it was like, well, she doesn't want her dad. She wants her mum. But at the same time, I still needed to be able to let Lara, my wife, have her moments on her own so she can recoup. And
that's right.
so it was, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm not saying that I was doing as much as I should, but when I was trying, but it was I just felt like I was failing.
Yeah, and it's almost like you don't know when to help or how to help, and your wife doesn't really know how to communicate that either, because they're going through that whole baby brain phase, and their body's so in tune with what the baby needs. There's no intuition to what we possibly need, right?
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. The intuition, that's exactly it. The intuition. We don't have, I didn't feel like I had it.
No.
And I know that my wife was going, had to learn along the way too.
That's
but
right.
It was like, you're kind of built, you've had the baby in you for 9 months, you've had some kind of feeling or intuition towards it. But to me, it's like a stranger's come into my house and I'm expected to know when it needs this, when it needs it. Like, we've done classes.
Yeah.
We did the classes.
Yeah.
But that's 4 classes over 9 months. That's not enough. I wouldn't say practice, but enough knowledge bombing for a male.
Yeah, that's right. And after your first baby, did you guys did your wife go through any kind of P&D, postnatal depression, or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure she probably had some struggles here and there, but this is when we were back in Melbourne and we had her parents around, my parents around, so maybe the struggle wasn't as bad.
Had the village.
We had the village. So no, I wouldn't have. From my perspective, I don't think she did. No.
Yeah. See, I asked my wife if we could talk about it, and so my wife suffered some really bad postnatal depression after our first, and it wasn't. It's not that you don't love the child or you don't want the child or whatever, or that you're not connected with the child. It was just a feeling that it's not one that I can really explain very well, but I guess from my point of view, I struggled too, because you see your wife struggling, and you've got this beautiful child who means the world to the both of you, but you're struggling to find that connection with your baby. And it took my wife sort of seeking help and going through some organizations to really overcome that, but it was really hard. It wasn't really the first few months. It kind of came a little bit after, sort of maybe about 6, 7, 8 months in. But yeah, that first period, I was working for myself at the time. My wife was just sort of hunkering down at home. I was trying to come home at night time and do everything I could, give her some space, take, our daughter off her hands, and as well as sort of tidy up a bit and make some dinner and get everyone fed and make sure that everyone's happy. And so, yeah, it was really, I found it quite hard. We had an overfeeding baby too. So we were told that, if a baby was breastfed, then they stop when they're full. No, that is not true.
Just kept chugging along.
Oh man, she would chug until she popped, bro. And it would just be projectile everywhere. And so it's here I am, cleaning up milky vomits all the time. Like, it was just like, it was rough, man. Like it was super hard. But in saying that, like our first daughter was a really good sleeper. She routined really well. You know, she was a model baby, you know, like, and so above and beyond everything else that was going on, at least she was a really good baby. And so everything else we had going on was sort of, you know, more mental health issues as opposed to sort of the issues we were having with having a baby. But yeah, we overcame all of that. And but yeah, it was really hard because, you know, here I was, you know, I went from somebody who I wouldn't have said it at the time, but I can say it now because of, you know, years of reflection and stuff. But I was very selfish with my own time. I liked having my time to go and do the things that I like to do, and I had a sport and a hobby that consumed a lot of time. And yes, I probably didn't divide that time, you know, very well sometimes, but I was just doing the best I could, right? Because I had an interest that I really loved, and it was a huge part of who I was. So when my daughter came along, and it was now I'm a father, it was kind of like I felt like I had to choose between being a father or wanting to pursue this hobby still, of mountain biking and racing and stuff like that. And all it took was one good crash when my daughter was 9 months old to really put it in perspective. And I almost like broke my neck and my back, and it was really heavy. It was like one of the heaviest crashes I'd ever had. And, you know, through all the years that I mountain biked, and I just got up from that, and I was lucky to walk away, and I just said, yeah, I'm choosing being a dad. And I think for me that was what I really needed. But in that moment, in those years after, like, yes, I was choosing being a dad, and I loved being a dad, like, love my kids, wouldn't change that for the world. But I was really heavily depressed because I'd left this thing that I loved so much, and that was really hard. It was like, yeah, leaving a girl that you love, or something like that, you know, like
that you're not ready for.
Yeah, and it was just like, and so yeah, that took me a long time to overcome that. Even it probably was the birth of our second daughter that kind of didn't really drag me out of it, but had new perspective again on top of that, you know. And so that was really, I think it's a really difficult process to go through because, you know, as guys, like, we love the things that we do, right? And then you almost feel like you have to choose between doing these things that you love and then being a dad. Like, it's really hard to find the balance of doing those things and being a father, because what I did was really quite dangerous. You know, I'm bleeding.
Medic.
You know, and I'd broken a lot of bones over the years, and so I kind of didn't want to be a broken dad. You know, I'm broken enough as it is now. I currently scratch myself and I'm bleeding. But yeah, I think it sort of comes right. You know, like in that post, you know, you have so many mistakes, and you don't pick up on all of these cues, and it only comes with time that, you know, you learn from all of these things that you've done. Like, yeah.
Well, I was to what you were talking about before about the P&D. How did you get through that time? How did you like? I guess the question is like, how did you navigate that, as well as trying to be there for your wife, and also find your feet as being a dad? Because you would have had, I would imagine it would have been quite stressful trying to figure out both at the same time.
Yeah. I guess like at first I tried to be the one to help and support my wife. But as the months went on, I soon realized that I was too close to the situation. Like most people, when they're going through some kind of mental health issue, the people closest to them aren't usually the ones that can offer the help, even if they have the right advice. It's usually an external factor that has to come in to offer the help, because they need to hear it from somebody else that isn't so close to the situation. And so I really just supported my wife into getting, reaching out for help. I couldn't be the one to make the call. I couldn't be the one to force her into it. It had to be her own natural way of finding that and what worked for her. But all I could do was be supportive. And I guess sometimes I didn't really know how to be. I would probably have come across quite frustrated sometimes, because it's like, for me, being on the outside of it, I could probably see what needed to happen
From a logical
point of view, but because I wasn't the one going through that, you know what I mean? Like, it was really tricky. Like, I guess at the time, like, I wasn't ready for it either. Like, I didn't know how to handle it. And so I was learning at the same time. I was learning how to try and be a little bit more understanding, or listen better, or, pick up on the things that she might have needed more. And I didn't know how to do that either. And so, there would have been probably a few good arguments in that time, in that space, and just through misunderstanding and frustration from both sides. And I'd like to think now I'm getting better at that. I'm still guilty of not being fully understanding of certain situations, or feeling frustrated because I feel it could be a lot easier to navigate something. But it's something that I recognize within myself now. And yeah, going into our second daughter was really hard work, but we were both way better mentally, because we had been through all of that with our first daughter, who was really good.
Mm-hmm.
But so going into our second daughter, who was like, I wouldn't say terrible baby, but she was a very hard work. But we were in a way more sort of level headspace. But we didn't have the village around for our second daughter.
Okay.
It was just me and my wife, and so we had a few family around for the first birth. But yeah, once sort of our second daughter came around, we had moved out of town, out of the city, and to a smaller region. So yeah, it was just us for a while. Yeah, it was, and that was tricky in itself. But me and my wife were pretty self-supportive of like that. But yeah, it was it's a really hard thing to go through. And I think if anybody's about to go through it, or is just starting to go through it and they're finding it tough, that's normal to feel that way. You know what I mean? It's not easy introducing a whole nother human to your dynamic.
Oh, it's something that you think that you're prepared for, but
yeah,
you can't be. It doesn't matter how much you think that you know. It's never enough.
It's never enough, eh?
But we were on the opposite. Our first one was a crap sleeper. That was one I think we had the most problems with. But come the second one, again we were in a better headspace. But he was a dream, really, compared to our firstborn Abby.
Yep.
There was some struggles there, and a lot of sleepless nights, and I think we kind of learnt from our mistakes in terms of how we soothed and how we got there to sleep, and we being in a better headspace for the second time around, and learning from our mistakes. Wouldn't say mistakes. Like, we did what we had to do at the time to give ourselves rest.
That's right.
So don't beat yourself up for doing that too. You need a reprieve, because if you don't, it's just going to get worse.
That's right.
So if you feel like you need to rock them for a bit, do it. But just know that there's going to be a point in time where it's going to be hard to wean them off that. But you got to, yeah. So I think we learnt from that from our first to our second, and yeah, I think for majority of this, for our boys' life, it's just been us up. Well, it's been mostly up here, So we haven't had that kind of support in his, not from the beginning of his life, but from 1 year old. We've kind of been on our own with him.
Yeah.
So we've kind of learnt to rely on each other a lot more for that one.
Yeah.
If that probably does. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah. It's it's one of those things. Like you'll never be prepared for it. Like I always had this idea or this vision in mind that, like, because my nana was 30 years older than my dad, and then my dad was 30 years older than me.
okay.
And so I always felt like I had to be 30 years older. Like, I didn't want kids any earlier than that, but I didn't really want kids much later than that. So it was kind of like, I felt like, I had my 20s to get it out of my system. And I didn't really want kids before I was ready. But it was kind of like, you're never ready. You're never ready. But it was more of just, I had a few things I wanted to tick off a list. And I knew that if I had have had kids, then I wouldn't have been able to do those things the way that I did them. Yes, you can always do those things later in life, but I wanted to do them while I was young.
When you can be a bit selfish about it.
Yeah, and just kind of be a little bit more, I don't know, wild.
Yeah, you got to get out of the system.
Be a bit more of a wild child. So, my sister had, sorry, Amy, I'm going to talk about you for a moment. My sister had her first when she was 20, and some might say that's really young, but now my sister's like in her mid-40s, and her oldest daughter's in their early 20s, and they've got a fantastic relationship because she's got adult daughters, and my sister's still young enough to be able to really enjoy that. And so there is no right and wrong here, you know what I mean? Like, so I never knock anybody down for being a young mum or young parents, because it's kind of like, well, at the end of the day, yes, you're sacrificing some of your youth, but you actually kind of probably, you get that back later. And I only realise that now. Like, I'm not saying that I probably would have had kids early. I'm quite happy with how we had them. We managed to knock out the 30-year thing, because Nick, my wife, is 30 years older than my eldest daughter. So we still managed. Yeah, we still managed to keep that little thing going there. And I was a little bit older, so yeah. But yeah, that was all right. Yeah, but yeah, I had those things that I needed to tick off first, and I knew that once I ticked off the major one, like if anybody had ever said to me, like, where do you want to go in the world? And being a mountain biker, my number one was I wanted to go to Canada. And so I got the opportunity to go to Canada and work for a year and be paid to do that. And it was, a dream. And so it was kind of like, once that had happened, it was kind of like, wow, I feel ready for the quest of becoming a dad now, because the one thing that was at the very top of my list that I wanted to achieve, I got to knock it out of the park, And so I was kind of like, wow, I'm happy to embark on that now. Yeah.
I didn't have that. To be honest, I just knew that I wanted to have kids.
Yeah.
And this, my wife would say I'd probably fast track that a little bit, but we're both happy to have him. So I didn't feel like I needed to tick anything off, if at all, really. I just wanted to have kids and have a young family.
Yeah.
So I think what you were saying before about sacrificing a bit of time now, but at some point, like you said as well, at some point you're sacrificing that time, whether it's at the beginning or later. So
Yeah, it's funny because I'm in my early 40s now as well, but I don't feel like I'm in my early 40s. I still dress like I did when I was in my late teens. And so I think it's just a feeling thing. Like you have all of these these misconceptions that you have built up in your mind. When you're young and you're approaching those sorts of hurdles or those sorts of things in your life, and it's there's a lot of non-truths. I think you could say, like, it's you kind of get further down the line with it and you're just like, oh, that was silly that I thought that way or I felt that way, or and I mean, it's all very real at the time, but I think becoming a father or just becoming a parent in general, like, it's something you have to want, something that you're never going to be ready for though. But once it happens, you wouldn't change it. And because we're humans and we're designed to reproduce, somewhere deep inside of us, we just have this.
It's ingrained.
It's ingrained in us. That's right. That's right. So, yeah.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, man.
What is one thing that you wish you had have learnt more about on your quest to becoming a dad? For example, for me, it would be having a better understanding of the changes that my wife is going to go through and how she's probably going to feel or act towards me, because that's something that really affected me in our relationship to, what's the movie Borat? When he's like,
I can't believe you're comparing your relationship to Borat.
No. The scene is like where he's talking about in Kazakhstan. We have, I've got to be careful how I phrase this now because I don't want to come across as. But anyway, he rattles off a list of people that are in high.
You've got Dean's cracking up.
Yeah, Dean. You'll have to pick this up, but you'll have to change the words a little bit. Where he rattles off the top of the person of the house.
Yeah.
Right, and then in our case, it's the wife or the baby, and then it's the wife, then the dog, then everything else, and then at the very bottom is the man, and that's kind of like how it felt for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my wife wasn't doing that or anything like that at all, but I just think there wasn't enough information or preparedness.
Do you think though, like, even though you feel like you're at the bottom of that list, you're actually at the top of the other list because you're the one that's providing for the family, and that the family couldn't have all of that list, all of that without you being at the bottom of the top. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. But from an emotional and a needs point of view, like, men, I don't know about a lot of men, but I know, like, for me, like, physical or hugs and kisses or... Yeah.
You feel a little bit forgotten about.
That's exactly it. And I don't think there's enough... I don't think there's enough out there, or like in those four sessions that you do at the hospital to talk about birth and what all the changes, everything's is going to happen. I don't think there's quite enough I don't want to say information. There's not what's the word?
Emphasis.
Yes, on how much it's really going to affect a man.
Yeah.
Because it really does.
Yeah.
It like, I'm sure, like, there's plenty of men that have gone through P&D as well. I just think that there probably should be a little bit more focus on what is going to happen to the partner, to the male, and how their roles is going to change.
Yeah.
I totally understand that it should be mostly about your wife and your partner, but I still think that if I had had just that little bit more guidance about the changes that were going to happen, I think I would have attacked it a little bit differently.
Yeah, and I guess reverting back to your question, like I think I'm probably a little bit the same. Like if you had known a little bit more about the fact that you're going to have to navigate the emotional side. Like, I mean, think about it, right? Like, your wife's just had a baby. She's incubated this thing in her belly. Not this thing, this baby in her belly for 9 months.
Yeah.
And, what I remember my wife saying to me that she could feel her insides reconfiguring. Like, imagine that. Like, as men, we never, ever, ever going to experience what that feels like, right? And so, like, we feel a little bit left out sometimes, but you think about all of the things that your wife is going through. Oh. And I think if you have that little bit of knowledge prior, that yes, you are probably going to get like forgotten about a little bit.
You're going to take a back seat for a certain amount of time.
You're going to take a back seat, but just be reassured that it's okay.
Yeah.
That you actually are not forgotten about. It may feel that way, but you're not forgotten about. You are a very integral part of the unit.
And I think that's what more men need to hear.
That's right.
During that thing, I think
right.
I'm just reverting back to those four courses, or not 4 courses, those 4 sessions that we did. I think that if there's just that little bit more emphasizing on what exactly what you've just said, that it's all right. It's normal.
Yeah.
You might feel like you're taking a back seat, but it's not on purpose, or it's all going to come good. Yeah,
and I think that's like what's so good these days. Like, I guess, like, in terms of like social media, you have groups that you can join and be a part of. Mums groups, dads groups, parent groups. All that sort of stuff. And I think it's a really good place to get that little bit of support that you need. Right? You can vent the way that you're feeling. People are gonna then reply with, I understand. It's okay. You're going to be okay. And I think, that's a really helpful and beneficial thing to be a part of. Find some community that is going through the same sort of thing that you are. Like, I can't remember the name of the word for it's dropped my mind. But the sessions that you do prior to having your baby. Yep. Dean, what's the word I'm looking for?
Classes?
Yeah, the other one. I don't know.
I didn't do them, so.
Okay, well, there you go. Flaccid, mate. And, but yeah, like those are the sorts of groups that you should keep in contact with. You should keep in contact with those guys that you've met, you've gone through that sort of process with, and and then because you're all in the same boat at the same time. But yeah, I mean, it's quite good now to have groups to reach out to, because I think we often feel alone in the moments, but the reality of it is there's so many people going through the same stuff in those moments too. So it's definitely tricky.
I think if there's the opportunity for a dad to go to a class with, not a class, but to the mums groups, I think I wish I had probably done something like that. Wish I had have gone to a dad's meetup with the baby or with the kids, and where you can talk about what's going on and how you're feeling, because like you said, once you feel like you're not alone, it kind of, I don't want to say the word normalizes it, but it kind of puts a bit more into perspective about what's happening.
Yeah. Are they called antenatal groups? Is that
prenatal
groups?
Perinatal? Something like that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, the word just sort of.
I will Google the definition and it will appear on screen.
Yes. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. So should we have a look at some of these other
Yeah, let's hear from
some of
hear
these
from the
other
people,
dads?
hear from the dads.
What some of these other dads had to say? Because I think it's really good just to get that little bit of perspective from from a few other people.
It just shows that it's real and you're not alone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got one here. It was like walking around with the lights on. You can see what's in front of you in the room of life. Then the lights go out and things have been moved about in the room and you have to get to the door. There are many ways to get out of the room, but you learn how to adjust, adapt, listen, and so much more that you have never been prepared for. That's a good little take on it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that, yeah, it's like you're walking around the room around with the lights on and you can see what's in front of you in the room of life. Then the lights go out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, navigating. What? Yeah.
It's like being in the room of darkness and going, oh shit, now I've got to
Feel your way through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. That's what it's like. Because I like my wife and I, we did things a little bit differently to what people would perceive to be normal. Like we co-slept with our kids. A lot of people said don't co-sleep, but we thought, well, why not? I co-sleep with my wife. I like being comfortable sleeping next to somebody, but here we are making our baby sleep on their own when all they want is the connection of their parents. So we always co-sleep with our kids. Like my youngest daughter's 6 and she still comes in every other night. Some nights I can handle it. Some nights I can't, and I get up and I'll go to her bed and I'll go sleep in her bed. Yeah. And I actually get quite good sleep in her bed. But we've never really tried to put too much pressure on the bedtime thing. It was just, we just let it roll.
Yeah. Okay.
However it went down, we just let it roll. If the kids wanted to sleep with us, we'd just let it happen. Some nights, like my daughter had a queen size bed at the age of 3 because our second daughter liked to sleep with mum so much. So it was like, oh, well, I'll just go and sleep in the other bedroom with the other daughter in the other queen size bed and everyone would get a good night's sleep.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was something that we both really, I didn't like having to be awake all night trying to soothe a crying baby because all that baby wants is connection. So we'd just bring it in.
Yep.
And it's like, as soon as you do that, put it down, boom, everyone's back to sleep. It was like, well, that's easy. Yes, people would say, oh, but you shoot yourself in the foot. You're going to have this needy child who, it's like, well, not really. Well, they grow out of it, But kids are only little for a short amount of time,
You shoot yourself in the foot, but like, for example, for us, like I was adamant, no kids in the bed whatsoever. I don't even think we've spent a night. Maybe we're in the beginning when they were little, but 2 reasons. One, that was my space. That was like the one spot that I just wanted to have as my own. And 2,
understandable.
I didn't want to roll over and squash one of them because I had an incident I didn't have an incident, but one night I took our daughter out to the couch because she was crying in the bassinet, and I took her to the couch and I was lying there and on my back and she was on my chest, and I woke up and I freaked. I thought that I had squashed her. I was like, where is she? Where is she? And yeah, so I didn't want to actually live that experience.
Yeah.
So, but then again, you don't want them in your bed, but yet you're there soothing them in their cot anyway till they're asleep.
Yeah.
We spent a few years constantly rocking Abby's cot, patting her to sleep, and so it's 6 of 1, really.
Yeah, totally, man, totally.
6 of 1, but to be honest, like my wife did a lot of that.
Yeah. We didn't co-sleep with them as babies, but once they're a little bit older.
Okay.
Yeah, once they're a little bit older. We had the issue with our second daughter not wanting me to put her to bed.
Oh.
And so it was kind of like if I went in there to try and help, she would scream blue murder on me. And so that was quite stressful because a lot of that task then fell on to my wife. And, all she needed was a bit of a break. And so it was, that was really tricky. We found those sorts of things quite struggling, quite a struggle. Yeah. But
for those of you who are just listening, I'm nodding aggressively. I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really hard. And I think, in a lot of those moments, like my wife was kind of like, oh, you're so lucky you get to get out of this. But it's not like that. Like, I felt really stressed because I wanted to do that, but I couldn't. I didn't have the opportunity because my daughter wouldn't let me.
Yep.
And that was, I didn't take it as a personal dig. Like, she's a baby, but it was a feeling thing for her. Obviously, she wanted her mum. She didn't want her dad in that moment.
I took it personally. Man, that put me in the dumps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, you're struggling that you can't console your own child.
That's right.
But then you're struggling because you want to be able to offer reprieve to your wife who's doing a lot of the work, and you can't you're losing both ways.
Yeah, and I think that's where the stress comes into it, right?
Yeah.
Is it's like you want to be able to help, but you can't. And it's not because you can't. It's because you're not allowed to.
Yeah.
And it's not that your wife's not allowing you to, it's your child isn't allowing you to. And that is the hard part, because you want that connection. You want to be able to do that. And those were the things that I really struggled with. My daughter's not wanting me in those moments. Yeah. And so that was, I think those are the hardest things, but that's just because the child has such a bond with the mother.
That's right.
Like both my daughters breastfed, and they never bottle fed. Both of them, they didn't want bottles.
Wanted the good stuff.
They wanted the good stuff, and so I think I wouldn't have changed that, but I think that solidifies the bond between baby and mother a lot more, and so because they knew that they didn't come to me for feeding, and so that I think that was a tricky thing. But I guess it's a really interesting subject, and I think a lot of people just have to sort of go with the flow a little bit, and if they struggling with it, reach out and all of those sorts of things, and realize that you're not alone.
Not alone.
Yeah.
And there's no right, like we were saying throughout the whole episode, there's no right or wrong. You do what you need to do to survive, to get yourself through it to the next day. You just roll with the punches, and if it turns out that you've developed some bad habits, well, you can break them. But just do what you can do to keep everyone above swimming, not sinking.
Yeah. And I think as a dad, I created that connection in different ways, right? Like coming home in the afternoon and playing with my kids in ways that mum might not, like, getting out in the garden, or like getting on the ground and, kind of doing that sort of, messy play, or, just stuff like that, just trying to, being a bit silly, or, there's a lot of ways that you can connect with your kids. If you are struggling, with that connection as well. And so, that was sort of where I shone, I think.
Okay.
Because I loved building things. And so it was kind of like, oh, you need a swing. Let's build one. Cool.
Yeah.
There we go. Ta-da! Got a swing. It was like, we when we moved into a place, when we bought a place, it was like, we've got a tree house. Build a tree house, like all of these little things. And so even just, going back to like when my first daughter was baby, like making her, like building her puzzles and all that sort of stuff, just things that she can play with. And I remember like making like little like cameras and out of wood. Like I love making wooden toys, so it was kind of like I just make all these things for my kids, and it was so neat to see them playing with it, and that was where my connection really came in to play, and now my kids are kind of like, well, Dad can fix anything. Dad can build anything, like, Dad, this is broken, or Dad, I can't fix this. It's like, yeah, I'm going, here you go.
I don't know how many times where I've said, "Oh, I can't keep fixing things. Stop breaking them."
Yeah, no, I encourage it. Well, I don't encourage them to break stuff.
It is a good feeling when you go, "Yeah, Dad's got this."
Yeah, but yeah, like that's sort of like my dad power.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that's sort of like you just got to find your feet in a different way. Like, yep, okay, you might be struggling to find that connection as being a dad right at the start, but there's other things that we can do as time goes on. Like, I guess I was really looking forward to the toddler years, you know, when the kids were running around a little bit more, they were a little bit more able, they were kind of like able to communicate a little better and whatnot. And we could, you know, I could teach them to climb trees and, you know, climb playgrounds, and we could, you know, teach them how to ride bikes. Like, you know, all of those milestone things, man, that's what I live for. I live for that stuff. Like, you know, teaching my kids to ride bikes with no training wheels, like, man, that like hits me right here, bro. Like, that was the moment, like, for me, like, and so these are the things that as a dad, like, I really thrive for, you know. And so that those, I think, you know, I think most men will attest to that. You know, we live for those moments, those milestones. So, yeah, sometimes we just got to be a little bit patient over that first sort of phase of becoming a dad. You know, like, you kind of feel like you need to have it all sorted straight away, but you know, it's an evolving thing that takes years and years and years, and you know, still learning now. Still learning, you know, my kids are 9 and 6, and I'm still learning. And I don't think that'll ever stop, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing I'm learning now is these are the hardest parts. These are the hardest years for me at the moment. Yeah.
You reckon?
Yep. Yeah, I'm
I don't know, man.
yeah,
we don't have teenagers yet,
what
right?
I mean is back when they were younger, there wasn't as much to do in terms of taking them to school and preparing them for this, doing that. But now it's busy. So that's what I mean. And I wasn't prepared for now. The busyness that has really, I've struggled.
Yeah.
Yep, constantly trying to get from work to get to school on time, because there's 2 different times to finish. They finish at, then you gotta get them to their after school activities, and then that doesn't stop. Then it's on the weekends, and you know, and I think that's been a big struggle.
Yeah, I guess if you look at it in the broad sense of life, though, it's like 10% of their life.
Yeah, I know.
That, you know, or 10% of our own life that we are that busy for.
Yep.
And it's kind of like, yeah, it's hard in the moment though.
It is. But you're right, and that's the thing. You need to remind yourself that in a few years' time, you know, my youngest is going to be, you know, 12. You know, he's going to be in nearly in high school. He's not going to want to do anything. He's going to want to be with his friends and all that stuff. And
there's you know, there's a moment where there'll be a last of everything, and we won't ever know that it's going to happen, and then it will just be the last time that one thing ever happens, and it'll just be like, but that doesn't happen anymore.
I think one of the best parts that I was looking forward to is the days where I pick them up from school and they can tell me about their day at school, even though their answer is nothing. What'd you do? Nothing. But that's what I was looking forward to. That's how I pictured it.
Yeah, I think like how do you approach that situation? Like, do you what's your question that you ask your kids?
Well, it used to be just, how was your day?
Yeah, it's pretty bland question.
Yeah, pretty bland. But then I started asking, and I was like, so how was your day? What made you happy?
Yeah.
I've only just started doing that too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
But asking more relatable or things that they can draw on, like their emotions, because you know you put how you were feeling at the time to an event.
Yeah.
So that's how I was trying to attack it. You know, what made you sad? Why'd you have a bad day? Or what made you happy? What did you laugh? Did you you know? I'm trying to ask those kind of questions.
Yeah. That
it's not as hard. It's not like you're trying to get blood out of a stone.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
yeah. Get them talking about the things that they want to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like I always ask my kids, like, what'd you do at lunchtime?
Yeah.
What'd you play at lunchtime? Because they don't want to talk about what they did in class.
And so did you play with your mate?
Yeah.
Did you play with your little mate there?
Yeah.
You know, were they good? Were you naughty? Were you cheeky?
Yeah.
You know, and you get more out of... Yeah, they don't give a crap about what they've learned.
No, not yet.
No, not yet. No, mate.
Nah.
No, but yeah, so there's goods and bads.
Mm.
But I think you just got to roll with the punches, don't you? That's the biggest thing. Just roll with the punches.
I think that's the thing that is just the broad blanket for all of it is it's, you know, you just got to roll with it, and don't isolate.
No, and when you think you know, you don't.
Yeah.
So just when you think you got it down pat, just
yeah.
It's just
those
sharp turns everywhere.
Those developmental phases will fuck you up just because you'll think you've got it all under control, and then they'll go through a phase and it's just like,
Jesus
change
Christ.
again.
Fuck.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of like, oh well.
But you know what? It's all worth it at the end of the day when they want to give you a hug at bed and say I love you, and
Totally, man.
it's all like, you know, all this shit that they put you through and all your feelings, but it just takes that one hug at the end of the day where you go, yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
It's all worth it. Just that love you, or the, you know, sometimes they go, oh, you know, Dad, you're cooler than Mum. You go, yeah, buddy, I know.
Yeah.
The other day was like, this is just an example. Like, Lara was in the kitchen slaving away, doing, you know, our diet dinner and getting the kids' dinner ready. And I had to go pick up our daughter from cheer. And my son was like, Dad, why can't Mum just go? Why can't you stay home? And my wife comes out and she gives me that look like, I won't. But yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's quite in those moments you go, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
So don't be hard on yourself.
That's right.
It's easier said than done, but
yeah, man.
just don't be hard on yourself.
Yeah. No, that's it, eh?
Yeah,
That's it. All right. Well, if you've got any comments or you want a topic or you want to talk about what we've just talked about, feel free to leave us any comments in the comment sections. Yeah. Give us some feedback if you feel like you need to.
Yep.
Give us a thumbs up.
Bad,
like,
good, whatever.
subscribe. Yeah.
Yep.
No, awesome. Thanks, bro.
All right. It was a good one.
Yeah, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
Peace out.
Peace.